So, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Bart van Gennip, and I am going to explain something about data spaces in the CitizenCity project. That's a project that we are doing together with the municipality of Eindhoven. Yeah, I am. Okay, sorry. But it's also co-financed by Spark. Spark is also one of the partners of the demand group. And before I start, I'm from Eindhoven, by the way, so this was at Eindhoven's Dagblad, our local newspaper, and this was front page news yesterday, and it was about, of course, the net congestion that touches upon us in Eindhoven, but I think in the Netherlands in general. So it's also said that the net congestion is a direct threat for our economy. And is this coincidence that this is in the newspaper yesterday and that we have the electricity week here in Arnhem? No, I don't think so, because this is daily front page news in the Netherlands for the last months, and I think for the coming months. Are we going to fix this problem with data spaces? No, of course not, but it's just a small part in this bigger program of fixing the net congestion in the Netherlands. I'm going to take you back to the demand event on January 27. Some of you were there, some of you were not. This is Sebastian Steinbusch. He's from the International Data Space Association, and he gave us a brief introduction into what data spaces is and what the status of the data spaces is. And he gave us a definition, and I think this definition is quite clear. It says that a data space is an environment enabling trusting data sharing between participating parties based on an agreed governance framework, along with an agreed set of policies, semantic models, standardized protocols, processes, and facilitating services. So basically you have a piece of technology, you have some agreements, and now it's time to share data. That's what this definition means. He also gave us an insight on the first ISO based on data spaces. This is still work in progress. There's a second one also coming that's specific for the Eclipse Data Space Connector. So it talks about DCAT, how do you present data. It talks about ODRL, how do you set the policies in a data space. Also, this is work in progress. And then Sebastian ended with this slide, which says, are we already done? No, we aren't. So this is the to-do list from the International Data Space Association, and it says we need to create data products. Useful data products with business models. So business models that we can actually create an ecosystem where everybody benefits the data space. Not only citizens, not only grid operators, but also companies, SMEs. So this ecosystem needs to be there. We need to have tools, we need to have approaches, we need to have ways to implement, and that's what still was on the list. So today, 5 months further in time, we are going to share what the results are of applied research in this field of data spaces. So, who am I? As I said, I'm Bart van Gennip. I'm from the Fontys University of Applied Sciences. I'm a researcher and a PD candidate. I think that everybody from the University of Applied Sciences know what a PD candidate is, but the rest not. So, very short, in the Netherlands, you have the bachelor education on HBO, University of Applied Sciences, and on scientific universities. You also have that for the master, but if you want to go to level 8, as what we call it in Europe, you need to go to a scientific university and do a PhD. But now we also running a pilot for a PD, that's the level 8 on applied science. And I'm one of the candidates. There are more here in the room, so if you have any questions about the PD, you can go to John, to Leon, other people that are here. And my research or my applied project is about European data spaces for smart, sustainable cities and communities. So, what are then the data spaces? We had the definition of the data spaces, but it started, I think, even before 2020, where we in the EU said, okay, the way the rest of the world handles data is not the way that we want that to be in Europe. So the European Union said at a certain point we have to harness the value of data for the benefit of the European economy, and therefore we are going to set up data spaces. That's one of the pillars in that strategy. and they define some domains. So again, I'm from the Brainport region, so we have a lot of manufacturing. Manufacturing is one of the domains. Energy is also one of the domains, but also the world of smart cities. And smart cities, that's the project that I'm working in together with the municipality of Eindhoven, represented here by Mieke, among certain people from Eindhoven. And we started with developing and implementing data spaces. But before we started, a small thing about the Data Space Support Center. So the European Union set up the European Support Center for implementation of data spaces, and they work for all the different domains. And the domain of the smart city is done by the Data Spaces for Smart, Sustainable Cities and Communities, or DS4 SSCC. If you practice it enough, it will work. And this is, so the DSCC sponsor supports the DS4 SSCC, and they started in 2022 and 2023 with their preparatory action, where they created a lot of information. They created a blueprint, an architecture, a roadmap. So there are like 10 different things that they created. And from there on, they said, now we have to start implementing data spaces. They created 11 pilot sites. Here are 3 pilot sites. So we have Beat the Heat, Spain, Italy. They have to do something about their heat islands because it's getting too hot in the cities. We have the data space for Positive Energy District from several cities in Europe. And from Eindhoven, we are in the CitizenCity project. And the CitizenCity project has basically 3 different data space implementations. So from Eindhoven, we are working on a Positive Energy District. From Alava in the Basque Country, they are working on mobility and winter road safety. And in Oulu in Finland, they are working in water and waste management. This project is done from the municipality of Eindhoven as the leading party, and we together with the TU Eindhoven are supporting the different implementations on several levels. So if you look at the roles and responsibilities, you see that the TUE, who's also here by the way today, is doing the stakeholder engagement. I already mentioned that a data space is an ecosystem. So that means that all the partners should be in this ecosystem and should have benefit of that ecosystem. So the TUE is helping with the stakeholder engagement. From Fontys, we are validating this blueprint. Is this blueprint actually working on implementing a data space? We're looking at security, and together with our colleagues from the School of Law, Avans Fontys, we are looking at data privacy. And then the different municipalities have to actually implement this data space. And what do we have? What kind of tools do we have? We have the blueprint on one hand, we have the building blocks. For people who are working in data spaces for longer, they know these building blocks, but they are divided in a technical part, that's blue, and in the business and organizational building blocks. And these are basically the standards that you can use to create this data space. So what we see here on the left side is that you have data models and data exchange. What kind of APIs do we have? What kinds of smart data models or standardized data models do we have for improving interoperability? How is our access management arranged? And what kind of publication possibilities do we have? That's on the technical side. If you read the literature, it said that the technical side isn't that difficult. Well, don't agree entirely, but it's based on existing standards, so it shouldn't be very difficult. But the business and governance part is even more difficult, because there we have to set up business models, we have to make sure that the governance is set up right, and we also have to comply to the law. And to give a small insight in data, the definition I just mentioned about data spaces can be read from the part of an, let's say, a professor in digital law that works with us, Colette Kuipers, can be interpreted in several ways. And that also means that you have to apply different kind of laws. So that's also pretty difficult. And then we have the MIMs, the minimal interoperable mechanisms. They basically look at what do you need before you start a data space implementation? What do you need to take into account? So we took that and we start implementing, but we also set up a PDCA circle where we can check a way of implementing. So the above part of this image is a implementation method, but that could be any implementation method. We are comparing that to the data space maturity model from the DS4 SSCC. We then compare that to the blueprint. We give some advice and then we go back to the implementation, and there we have our PDCA circle that we are using in the implementation of the different use cases. Further on, we are creating some kind of IT auditing process to see if security is working in the data spaces. And as I said before, I have a colleague and she works with her team on the legal part, and officially within CitizenCity we are only looking at privacy and the GDPR. It's quite easy because if you don't share personal data, you're ready. But we're also looking at contract law and all kinds of other things. Yeah, I don't know who follows the news about digital laws, governance, etc. But in the beginning of the year we had the digital omnibus, and then this field changed a lot basically. So that's what we're also doing at Fontys. But along the way in this project is running for 18 months and it has to be ready before this summer holiday. We also found out that experimenting with data spaces within municipalities, that's quite difficult because you are dependent on their IT and on how fast they move. So at Fontys we set up a sandbox. So we have a long-running partnership with a municipality. We took a previous project that was already finished, we put it in our sandbox, and we started with creating a governance model. So, and in this governance model, we think that there is a role for the metropolitan region Eindhoven. So this is an organization that supports basically the 21 municipalities within the Brainport region. They should be the governing body of a data space, and then we have the data providers and the data users, etc. So we set this up for this use case, and then we start implementing. I'm going to show you some implementation based on the 5 main processes of a data space. And those 5 main processes are, in our case, onboarding a participant. So you have to onboard on this data space. You have to create or publish a data offer. You have to request a data access if you want to. You have to access and use the data. And also, very important, often forgotten, you have to offboard a participant if necessary. And what we did, we implemented with 3 different tech stacks. So we are looking at Simple, that's the European middleware of data spaces. We are looking at the Eclipse data space connector and at Fireware. And we start implementing parallel on the implementation of the 3 cities. I've been in this world of data spaces for quite some years now, and I've saw a lot of presentation, and what I basically always missed was the actual front end of a data space. You saw a lot of architecture, a lot of code, and a lot of things that could happen. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to show you the 6 implementations with 1 or 2 screenshots. Okay, this is a data space, how it looks in the front end. And this is actually running, so this is not made up. This is actually running at the different sites. And yeah, I'm sorry, sneak peek, it's not that fancy. So we have the deployment number 1, that's from the municipality of Eindhoven together with Nexus. They use the Eclipse data connector. Here you see the architectural drawing where you have the different connectors, the API, etc. And how does that look like in practice? I think I'm going to stand here because I can see it. Here we have an overview of the data flow where you have a Nexus Eindhoven and then the different steps you need to go through to the data exchange. Then we have the second one, that's from Oulu, from the Water and Waste Management. They created their own international data space connector, of it is approved at least by the ITSA. It's created by VTT, and that's the Finnish TNO. So they created their own connector, and how does their front end look like? Yeah, also just like a web page where you can onboard things, that you have to fill in some fields, and there you can onboard participants, data products, etc. Then we have the third use case, that's the Alava Mobility Lab. I think that in our use case, they are the front runner on technology, and you see that there's a strong backup from their government, from the local government, to set up this data sharing initiatives. So they created their own application, and this is the application where you look at the provider side. So you have a provider application, you have a consumer application, and this one is the consumer side. So this is a catalog where the data is available and where you can, as a consumer, request the data that you want to use for some kind of service that you want to create. Looking then at Fontys, we also have 3 implementations. First of all, we have Simple. That's, it says it is standardized interoperability model for European data spaces, or Simple. It's been here for quite a while, and we start implementing this as in the beginning of September, and we have our first working version running. So it's not that easy to implement, but these are the different agents running at Fontys, but the front end is also looking a bit the same as the other front ends you just saw. It's filling in fields, making sure that you are connected to the data space and that you are offering your data products to that data space. The second one, and this is by the way all developed by our students, supported by different teachers at Fontys. The second one is Fireware. Well, Fireware, the support of Fireware was not that good if you talk about what we call last semester, September until January. Now they are developing rapidly. So this is the front end of Fireware, and because it went so slow, students of ours created a known front end, and 1 week later Fireware had the front end. So that's also a part of being in this innovative environment. Also the different steps in the process that you see here in the front end and here as well. So that one went after all quite smooth. And if you look at the Eclipse, that's still work in progress. So yesterday my students gave me the update. It is running, but they weren't able to provide a front end, working front end on the Eclipse data connector. So these are very concrete examples of data spaces working at this moment. Now I want to show some extra things in how you can work with University of Applied Sciences. So a little bit of marketing. We are doing this together with the municipality of Eindhoven, with the TUE. And what we do at Fontys is not only developing these proof of concepts, but we also had this international week where 100 bachelor, master and PhDs worked on the field of data spaces. They were at Fontys. This is a presentation from the TUE, for example, at Fontys. This is a presentation in the City Hall from somebody from the municipality of Eindhoven. What we did more is we creating games, serious games, because explaining the concept of data spaces is quite hard. If you want to get people working with you on data spaces, you have to explain it again and again. And for us, it makes sense. But we created 2 large language model games which we tested in the International Week, and we are now finishing up one card game where you can play a game and then immediately see the benefits of working with a data space. And this is created by our game design students. And then we have the legal framework. I'm very happy, Colette couldn't be here, but I'm very happy that Colette Kuipers is working with us, because this field of law is, it's quite difficult, and there are a lot of things still to explore in this field to make it work. She's not only creating this model for the DS4 SCCC, but she's also the sparring partner for the DSSC for this legal part, and that's I think really cool. Working with students, that's something, of course, that we do at Fontys, and every semester we have like 2 semesters in a academic year. we have, like in this project at least, 8 or 9 student projects working on several technical parts and non-technical parts of the data space. So we see the different implementations, we see the gaming students, we also looking at governance and processes. And last thing to mention is, I think very nice, is that we have this blueprint document. It's 140 pages and just one of the 10 documents. And I don't know if one of you went to the blueprint at the DSSC or started a Google search. I want to begin a data space, where do I start? Well, that's a rabbit hole. And I think that everybody that's longer than 6 months in data spaces recognizes, see some people laughing, I've been there, all my students been there. So we are now developing an AI agent that we are feeding with the documents that we want to, and that we can communicate with that agent to get the right information in the right way. And we are going to expand it also on different walls. So what if you are a business person or a security person or something, so that you can communicate with that. So this is CitizenCity. This is what we do at the University of Applied Sciences. We are happy, of course, also working together with Saxion and Han. A lot of knowledge is shared here in this demand group. This is what we are going to do next in the smart city environment. So we are going to do a meta-analysis. We're going to contribute to the MIMS. And this is the entire European field on smart cities and data sharing. So a lot of work has been done, a lot of work needs to be done, and I think that's quite a cool field of IT that we're in. And yeah. Thank you for your attention. This is Eindhoven 2035, and I hope we have some energy, we have everything working, because yeah, this is a challenge, and thank you very much for your attention. Any questions?
Thanks for the thanks for the presentation. So, just a curious question. It's about citizens, and I think a part of this data space will also concern citizens contributing their data to the data space. Do I make a correct assumption? Yeah?
Could be, yeah.
And then there's that concept of self-sovereign identity, which is really running. So I didn't really see that in the story. So is there something to share, or maybe not yet? How?
A lot.
Yeah?
Yeah, but I only have 25 minutes.
So take two.
No, so setting up European data spaces is also about being more sovereign in what we do. So if you look at the different solutions that we are running, it's a pain in the ass for the data space, the ES4 SSEC, if they see that their solution is running in an Azure cloud or in some kind of other American big tech cloud. So the different standards that we are using, as shown in the blueprint, the technical blueprints, that is all, let's say open source and not US, basically.
Thanks, but then I didn't articulate my question very well, I think. So for me, it's not per se about the sovereignty of the technology, but the sovereignty of me as a person. So I own a house, I have data regarding my energy consumption, and I need to share that within the space, potentially, I think. And then we need kind of a mechanism where I can donate my data, not technically, but from a personal perspective. Yeah. But that was more my question.
Okay. If I look then to the Eindhoven use case, and Mieke, correct me if I'm wrong, but from the Eindhoven use case, we run into a problem that we are now sharing data between Eindhoven municipality and the Nexus. We also wanted to share a car riding initiative in the municipality of Eindhoven. So there's this area in Eindhoven where people got rid of their car and basically bought a car that they share, and they wanted to be a part of this data space, but there we saw that what they store as data is very personal data in a big Excel sheet somewhere in the cloud, And yeah, that was a no-go. So there's still work to do, and also from the part of legal. I think we now, in our specific project, we avoided the topic of what you mentioned.
Yeah, thanks. So in September in Switzerland will be a large conference, the Global Digital Collaboration. I don't know if you know about it. There will be like 2,000 people from all over the world talking about these kind of things. So happy to share a little bit with that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you for your very clear presentation and explaining this concept of data spaces. My name is Paul Jans. I'm working with Eindhoven, and we are related to the government standardization organization in the area of location, which also concerns data spaces. You talked about data space connectors. The data space by itself is an abstract concept, and it starts living when data gets into it, or you get access to data. Do you feel comfortable enough with the level of standardization and specification you get from standards that allow you to develop data space connectors as it is now?
I think there's a reason why you asked this question. Huh? Yeah. So this is developing, and if you look in the field of data spaces, you see different technologies and different maturities of data spaces itself. So, for example, in this Eindhoven region, we have the SCSN network. That's quite high level of standardization and professionalization. If you look at the Halava use case, it's also at this level where I would say I feel very comfortable. If you look at the Eindhoven use case and the Olu use case, they are starting to get to a certain level. So I think if you would have asked me this question 1 year ago, I would definitely say no. But it's developing very rapidly, and you see mature enough developments and implementations where I would say, okay, I'm feeling confident with that.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, my name is Lisette van Rijn. I'm a PhD candidate from the Han University of Applied Science, and I work at the Ministry of Interior and Kingdom Relations. I have 2 questions about your very interesting presentation. Thank you for that, by the way. I'm very interested in the games that you just touched upon. I would like to know more about that, what the result is and how you started or dealt with it, because it was a game with paper I saw, or
we developed
cards.
3 different games.
Yeah.
So the idea is that we developed 3 different games, 2 together with the University of Eindhoven and 1 at Fontys. And the idea is that the games we have a good proof of concept in the end of this academic year, and that next year we're going to test the different games and see what the results are.
Okay. Well, I would like to keep in touch about that. I'm very interested in the way of working. Yeah. And then something else. What about sustainability and data? Do you have attention for that? Data spaces and sustainability?
From which perspective? Because I can say yes, but there's multiple levels.
I don't know how to reduce energy, for instance, or.
Well, basically, the idea within smart cities and in Eindhoven, that's a nice example. So we need to create more houses in Eindhoven. We do that in the city center, and I think you can talk about 20,000 more apartments, etc., in the city center. But it also has to be greener. And it has to be a better living environment than it is right now. And we think that data sharing can help make the right decisions for a municipality to create this. So our project is a part of the European Green Deal. So there is a connection, yes. Yeah. And this is a very important thing in our municipality.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you.
I think we're running out of time. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, and I will give the floor to Manon.